Good day all. So I've took myself off the beaten track as usual, and I found myself a nice little place. Among the birds and the bees and the gentle breeze, and look how the grasses are just gently swaying along with the trees and everything. So earlier this morning I went walking on an empty beach, and I was in a walking meditation, and whilst I was in this walking meditation I was contemplating a verse from the Bible. It says, in God's kingdom there are many mansions. And so I'm going to have a stab at interpreting that. And I don't think it's too outlandish for me to make this assessment of that statement. In God's kingdom, I can't say God this morning, I'm saying God's. In God's kingdom, there are many mansions. Okay, well, we know that, some of us know that the Bible is spoken in allegory and metaphor. There is no reality to any of it. Some people insist that Jesus was a reality, but there's a great number of people who will steer you to a different perspective, that Jesus is just an allegory. And this biblical story of Jesus has been told umpteen times throughout the ages in a very similar way. The Son of God being born of a virgin, 3 kings going to visit him when he was newly born, and all this sort of thing. I'm just watching the swifts, they're all around. Oh wow. And so I was contemplating that verse, and what I think it means is in God's kingdom, which is pure consciousness, which encapsulates the universe, there are many dimensions or states of consciousness. Now, let's speak about some obvious ones which we all have experienced. The kingdom of love in comparison to the kingdom of abject fear. Now, look at this. And all these it's all amazing, you know, folks. It's all miraculous. So what we've all experienced, or at least the vast majority of us, is love and abject terror and fear. When you experience these emotions, the world becomes a very different place. When you experience deep depression, the world becomes a very different place. When you are on a roll and everything's going well for you, the world becomes a very joyous place. You're ecstatic. You love life and all that which it has to offer. These are different dimensions. They're different dimensions of consciousness. Now, I remember a time when I had an 18-666. I had 18 hours of pure terror, where I went into a different world and into a different state of consciousness. The world about me was mostly the same, only everything had a connotation of terror about it. And I would look at the pattern on my duvet and see demonic faces. I would see demonic faces in the bushes, in the trees, and I would see hidden signs everywhere, which was evil. It was an absolute nightmare. It was hell. And some of you may remember, I did a video about that. Then I have been in love. And being in love puts you on the crest of the wave. It puts you on the top of the world. And so you can see them by turning your mind to the level of varying dimensions that we can experience in our everyday life within consciousness. Then if we take it a few steps further and we go into the realms of astral projection, psychedelic experiences. If you look at acid, psilocybin, DMT, even marijuana, MDMA, all these sort of things, they take you into a different dimension where you see the world in a whole different way. Now, when I had this DMT trip the other day in my apartment, and excitedly I ran to the balconies and I was looking at the sun god, and the way the light cast on everything, and I was seeing the whole world as if for the first time. And so, another excerpt from the Bible. When you become like babies, that's when you enter into the kingdom of God. And I'm telling you, the feeling that was with that was the most beautiful and joyous and ecstatic. And I couldn't stay in the apartment anymore. I just grabbed my rucksack, my drink and an orange, and I literally almost ran out of the apartment. And I had such a stride, walking around in this beautiful world with the sun on my body and feeling the breeze and looking at the colours and the creatures and everything. Wow. This is the sort of place that we're trying to attain, I think, in the spiritual realm. And you can reach these states of euphoria, these dimensions of consciousness, only fleetingly. But when you do, it does carry on. It carries over into the everyday life, because the feeling and what you saw still remains. And so you project that back onto it. So it's kind of like, thank you for giving me that, because now I can project that back onto the world, you see. And so this is the beautiful thing. Now, if we have very negative experiences, then we do that also, don't we? When we've been shown a very negative experience, we remember that, how it felt, and what the world looks like, and we can often project that back onto the world, thinking that the world's a terrible place because it did this to me. If we can't learn from that experience and grow from that experience, some people can't. They stay within the stupor of that negative energy and they hold on to it, and they can't seem to transmute that into the positive energy. They can't seem to use that as a tool to raise up. And so they remain in that dimension of consciousness. Now, one person that I'm giving therapy to says to me that she wishes that she could view the world from another person's mind to see what it felt like and what it looked like. And that's a very beautiful thing to say. Because as long as you have that thought in mind, then there's the chance that you may work your consciousness towards that. If you are just so engrossed within your own mindset, you become a prisoner to it, then you never look at the other options, do you? And so this is why I've got great hope for bringing this person out of this particular state of mind, because she has the concept of awareness of another way to look at the world. And she gets a lot of that, obviously, from me. Because the way in which I look at the world is with complete contentment, beautified. How can I not be? I'll tell you how you can not be. Maybe later in this video. But the purpose of this video was to bring about the realization of this metaphor, this one line from the Bible. In the kingdom of God, there are many mansions. You see, if we have an extraterrestrial encounter, of course that's another dimension. The astral world can invariably be another dimension. A mansion, you see. If we look at the words, then language is very, very difficult to discern any of this spiritual stuff, because it's useless. It's useless in that dimension. It's useless in other dimensions. Why would it be a useful tool in other dimensions? It's only some use to us. And I would say that it's a great deficit to us in lots of ways, because what we do is we try to put everything into this language, into this dead language. And this dead language that we're using just doesn't have the glory to be able to present what you see and feel to its heightened magnitude. And so many people then, they are dwelling within one mansion. And this one mansion could be the mansion of anxiety. It could be the mansion of greed. It could be the mansion of hate. It might be the mansion of great contentment. All of these mansions are within God's kingdom. God's kingdom is your consciousness. And so you can enter all of these kingdoms, all of these mansions within this kingdom. You see, each mansion is a kingdom. And so, language again, in God's kingdom, there are many mansions. Well, when you are in a particular mansion, it is a kingdom. Because it is something in its entirety. I'm in a kingdom now. It doesn't get no better. It's at the top of the toppermost. It's king. And so when you are in the depths of depression, then that particular mansion is king to you, because it has reign over you. You come under its jurisdiction. And so if we apply ourselves to this, what I'm speaking about now, in a practical way, if you realize that you are within the kingdom of God, and within this kingdom there are many mansions, and these mansions pertain to a state of mind. They pertain to a level of consciousness. They pertain to a particular dimension. There are many, many, many dimensions within this dimension. It's not like quantum physicists say, oh, there's about 11 dimensions, this, that and the other. Look, the state of mind is a dimension, people. Because when you're in that state, you're in a different world. Now, when I go into deep meditation, and I go into the dimension which is pure awareness. Pure awareness of awareness. Nothing else. Within this awareness, you only have an awareness because you don't have any thoughts. You don't have any sensations of the body moving, of breathing, of hearing, of being on this world. You go into the abyss of pure awareness. Now, when you have been there and you contemplate, where did I go? I went into the particular mansion of the void, of complete contentedness, because this level of awareness is just aware, and there's no positive or negative, it's just isness. Only it's a good isness. It feels good. And so therefore, we may lend ourselves to saying, well, it's a positive thing then, isn't it? You go into a positive dimension. And if we look at the positivity of it, then it's because we are entirely detached from the trappings of the human being. We're just pure consciousness, whereby nothing can affect us because we don't have adrenaline, we don't have cortisol, we don't have a fear-based ego, we don't suffer pain, we're just awareness. And so when I'm in my meditation, and it's not too often that you can get so deep and experience that pure awareness for some time. Sometimes I've laid in it for a long time. Even though there's no concept of time, your awareness is there, and the awareness goes on and on and on. And it's like, wow, this awareness is lasting for ages. When you come out of that kingdom or mansion of God, back into this reality, what happens is, first of all, you open your eyes and you start to see this reality around you. And then you start to listen, and then you start to feel the body, and then maybe you feel the sensation of wanting to go to the toilet, or you're hungry. You start to think thoughts which pertain to everyday life. And so you come back into this particular mansion, your everyday mansion, you see? So you can, in actual fact, step in and out of various mansions. Now, of late I'm doing lots of DMT. And if I was to take DMT here now, then all of a sudden I'd be in the most glorious of mansions, which is, it's no more glorious, I don't think, than this one here now. But you see, the difference being is it's a new variety of gloriousness. And the newness kind of like gives it the edge and a certain prominence in your mind. But what I do is I never consider this to be a second best, because this absolutely isn't a second best. It's very different, but equally as beautiful. In actual fact, more beautiful in lots of respects, because you can look at it closely, whereby in the DMT world you can't look at anything closely because you're just aghast and you're just constantly looking around because the stimulation of the newness is so bizarre and so profound. And so as practical help for people, if you can contemplate, what would it be like to be in a different mansion of God's kingdom? Maybe a different job, a different relationship, a different town, a different country. I've said for many, many years, there's worlds within worlds, within this world. You just travel to a different culture, a different country. You're in another world, people. You're in a world whereby if you go alone, you don't know a single person around you. And the chances are, it's very, very unlikely that you'll ever meet anybody that you've known before. So, isn't that going into another world? Of course it is. Particularly if you're in a very diverse culture. India, Africa, Asia, the Middle East, there's so many different cultures. And so, therefore then, we can go into different worlds with travel, but you can also go into different worlds with your state of mind. And if you are not happy in your particular mansion, then if you envision another mansion, then you can work towards that. You can finish your job, you can finish your relationship, or you can get a job or get a relationship. These things are going to be changing what your mansion looks like and feels like. And so if we work on this, and this is what I say to this person that I'm helping presently, apply yourself. I keep scratching because these things are sort of like tickling my back, very sort of spiky. But if we can realise that we are God consciousness, and we too have many mansions. You see, what's the difference? If we can experience the varying mansions of God, doesn't that mean we're God? We're experiencing God's mansions. And if I so choose now, if I had it on me, I could go into God's mansion of DMT. It's my choice. I could lend myself to thinking that this is just bushes and grass. I don't know as I could ever do that now. I've never been of that mind, ever. I've never ever thought about this world like that. And so when I'm speaking to people and I'm trying to instill a certain something within their heart and mind, I don't know whether it's possible, but I'm trying. Because I know it's possible to have other levels of consciousness and to perceive the world in other ways when you gain a certain experience. You see, if you left the hustle and bustle of the city and you went to a retreat like lots of people do, whereby you'll meditate like on a vipassana, where you meditate, you know, for 8 hours a day and then you don't speak. You go into a different mansion of God then, and you're getting in touch with these mansions within your consciousness. And once you've been there and you've experienced certain mansions, then you know that you can go back there again, you see? And so when you've learnt certain tools, when you've had certain experiences, then you can make the choice between all of the experiences that you've had. And so I say to this person that I'm helping, speaking about the scale of 1 to 10, the experiential level of 1 being very low, the experiential level of 10 being very high, where are you on a day-to-day basis? How do you feel? What is your thought pattern? And do you want to raise up on this scale? How can you raise up then? When you was feeling an 8, what did that relate to? It related to having fun with great friends and being free and not having any stress or anxiety. Okay, well, how can you head towards that? How can you reduce the stress and the anxiety? Are you living in somewhere that you can't afford and so therefore you have a monetary pressure? Are you working in an environment that isn't stimulating you? So therefore you spend 8 or 10 hours a day in an environment that you're not enjoying? These mansions, you have to step between. And it's a bit like quantum jumping. I quantum jump all the time. I'm on Bondi Beach in Australia. There's Beach Boys playing on the beach radio. And there's so many people around, all beautiful young people, all brown, in their very bright bikinis and boardies, and they've got surfboards, and they're just having a great time. And there's a real pungent smell of coconut oil and any number of other moisturising agent or sun preventative. You see, we can do this. And so it doesn't matter where we are, as long as we have an imagination, we can just be anywhere. But you see, most people, they don't think about the positive aspects of their thought patterns because they are too imprisoned via the imposition of negative thought patterns. They go round and round and round and round. I hate my job, I hate my job. This person's bullying me at work. My boss is a twat. Oh, you know, I'm not happy in my relationship. It's boring now, it's stagnant. Or I'm so lonely. I wish I had a relationship. How am I going to get a relationship? What is wrong with me? Why aren't people attracted to me? On and 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 on. Until you can't see the beauty of the world. And so what I've said to this particular person is, well, imagine your ideal world. What does it look like? And she told me what it looked like. It entailed her being very fit and in shape, with a good number of friends, no money issues, with a lover. And so I'm like, well, okay, you know what it looks like. You know what it feels like because you've had these feelings before. And so that's what we have to work towards. But, you know, let's not be under any misconception about this. It takes intention. It takes discernment. It takes desire. It takes will and energy and effort. You see, when people just think the world is going to come to them, the world is here. You've chosen. You choose how it looks and how it feels. That is the reality, people. You choose. Granted, there are some conditions that we don't choose that put our mindset in a certain way. But you can still make choices based on that to better your circumstances. And so this is what I'm saying then. At the end of the day, assess what actually is going on in here, in the physiology, within your heart. What does it feel like to be you? Can you imagine feeling something else? And if you can, for instance, with me, playing my guitar and having a sing-song, I imagine myself singing beautifully when it feels so beautiful when it's coming out. And you see, it's all about the feeling, because if it feels beautiful, then it sounds beautiful. But if it doesn't feel beautiful, if it feels strained, if you feel like you're under pressure, or the level of concentration is too high, or the body is under tension because you're in anticipation for certain notes and intonation, then that is conveyed in the essence of what you produce, you see. But if you think about doing something gracefully and with ease, then you know where that's at. You know what you're aiming for. And so then you're working towards that. And slowly you'll start to touch on it and you go, that was it. Just that verse there. Just that word there. Just that note there. That was it. I went into another dimension. Because that was outside of the dimension I'm currently in. And I want to break through the dimension I'm in now into another dimension. I want to jump into another dimension, whereby there is an Aaron which sings much more beautifully and plays the guitar much more gracefully. And so, in time, I may get there. But if I do not get to this position in my mind's eye, then if you aim for the stars and you land on the moon, at least you've made progression. You see? You see, when you look around the natural world, and I can't hear any cars, I can't hear any people, and when you just look at the hues, let me go back this way so the light isn't in the camera. When you look at the varying hues, shades and colours, and the animation, all these things are so beautiful and so graceful. And look, and I just look at things like that for a long time. And I'll sit here for another hour and I'll watch the butterflies and the bees and the birds and the other varying creatures. I'll watch them going about their everyday life and know that this world is going on. People, it's happening. It's happening now. So you ask yourselves, do you want to be a part of it happening now? Do you want to be a part of it happening now? Or are you endlessly in the so-called illusory future, in the so-called illusory past? Where do you want to dwell? What's the point in dwelling in the past? Nothing's happening now, except maybe negative emotions. If you're projecting yourself into the future, to a brighter world, to a brighter mansion, then okay, that level of thinking is good. Because you're setting your intention to do something. But let us not forget each second of the day when your life, your experience here on earth is ticking away. And so, seconds going by now, I enjoyed that second. I enjoyed that second. I'm loving this. Oh, it's gone. But I enjoyed it. I'm enjoying. And then it becomes one stream of, I'm enjoying. There's no time, there's only now. You see, if you obliterate the time, there's only now. So, capitalise on the now. Be with the now. Enjoy the now. Live the now. And many of you may look at me and say, oh, we've not all got the privilege that you've got, Aaron. You know, you've emancipated yourself from the Matrix because you got a few quid and you can do this. I can't do that. Look, even when I was on benefit, I did it. And I did it for lots of hours. Every single day. I was always out in nature. If you remember the hundreds of videos Paul and I made. So it's doable, people. Don't impose upon yourselves the restrictions that you've heard somewhere or you've invented. I can't do this because of that. Because of what? You're God. You can't go into that mansion because you don't have the key. Of course you do. It's just that you've forgotten where you put it. That's the thing about it. All these mansions, you've forgotten where you put the bunch of keys. Find the bunch of keys and start opening up some of these mansions. And then you'll see that there is no such thing as one dimension that you're bound to. We're not bound to this dimension. We can go into other dimensions with meditation or with lucid dreaming or with dreaming or with astral projections or with psychedelics or with different heightened emotions. We're always in and out of different dimensions. And I don't think that there's any place particular that you go, because it's all here, it's all now. It's just on a different level of vibration, in a different mansion within the kingdom of God.